Hello my beautiful friends and welcome back. So today I thought we would sit down and have a big ol' Q&A, have a little catch up because it's been a minute since we have and I really just wanted to sit down and chat with you guys. So that's what we're going to do. So let's just dive right on in. So the first question is, how is the driving going? And I am so excited that I actually have an update on the driving, and if you are following me on Instagram you might have already seen that, but I passed my theory test. And I cannot tell you how big of a deal that felt to me, because it felt like a huge step in the right direction. And as I've shared before, like, I've had such a fear of learning to drive from a really bad car crash I was in at 19, and every year I'd write it on my goals what I wanted to achieve for the following year, and every year I'd be no closer to getting it done. If you're in Ireland, I cannot recommend the driving theory test app enough. It's only like €13, but I cannot tell you how many practice theory tests I did in the 2-3 weeks before my exam, and I felt so confident going into it because I just did so many practice tests. And yeah, I passed, and I don't know what it is, but passing the theory has helped me overcome some sort of mental block I have had with learning to drive, and now I am nothing but excited to get on the road and start doing my driving lessons. So in Ireland you have to do 12 driving lessons before you can do your test. So I'm currently just in the process of waiting for my provisional license to come, and then I can do my first driving lesson, which I am stupid excited for, even though I've never been behind the wheel of a car. My parents never, gave me any lessons or anything growing up. The way a lot of people's parents will like bring them around the block for a few times. My parents never did, because they always had an automatic car because my mum could only drive automatic. But now your girl has decided that she wants to learn automatic, because I just want to make the process as seamless as possible. I just feel like what I went through with the whole driving thing within myself is such a metaphor for so many things in life. Like, I spent years so fearful, so stressed, so anxious every time I thought about it, but I was thinking too far ahead. Like, girl, you hadn't even done your theory test. Like, why are you stressing about being in a car? Like, you're so far from that point. And just focusing on the first little step, like the only thing I had control over, which was studying for my exam, and then the next step, which was doing the exam, and how things fall into place when you just focus on the one little step in front of you, you know what I mean? We often get so caught up in trying to look at the big picture of whatever it is. But taking a step back and taking it one little step at a time can often help you have a mindset shift in the process of doing so, you know what I mean? I feel like I was speaking about that for 5 minutes. Okay, so would you ever do reality TV? I don't think I've ever actually shared this online, but a few years ago, I think it was 2018, I was asked to do quite a few reality shows. I was asked to do the bisexual dating show. I don't know if any of you guys watched it, and I did quite a few rounds for that. Like, I had a few Skype calls, like the interview process. I was back and forth with them, and like, I could have gone on it if I wanted. They wanted me on it, but then I just realised it just wasn't a bit of me. Dating shows and me are just not a match. Then I was also asked to do The Bachelor. Is it The Bachelor? Yeah, so do you know where there's like a man and I think there's like 10 women and they're all like fighting for his attention and to be his number one, and then he picks one girl and that's how the show ends. And again, just not a bit of me. I was asked on some other dating show as well. I can't remember what it was. And then I was also asked to do The Circle, which I would have done. I feel like The Circle is a really cool concept of a show, and I have watched a couple of seasons of it, and I do think something like that would be a lot more up my street. But it was just at the time I was asked to do it, it didn't make a lot of sense, because I would have had gone away for 6 weeks and I had a lot of work on at the minute and commitments at the time, and it just didn't make sense, like, logically, when you kind of pulled in all the factors of what was going on. But yeah, I feel like I would definitely do a show if it was like more of a challenge kind of show, you know what I mean? Like, I was never interested in doing them dating shows because, for so many reasons, how much like they manipulate these shows. They're filming you for 24 hours a day, but you're only getting like a 40-minute to an hour episode, and they really can paint you in whatever way you want. That's why you see so many people coming out of these reality shows and they're literally a shell of themselves, and they do go on to say as time goes on like how much that affected their mental health. You know, even people going into these shows, they leave their jobs and then they come out and they don't have all these brand deals, like, you know, they don't have all these followers, and now they're also not making money. And a lot of the time going on these shows actually creates a lot more problems for people than not. You know, it's very few amount of people who go on these shows and have like a really full-on positive experience. But yeah, just so many reasons why it wouldn't be a bit me. But like in the future, if there was some like fun challenge show that came at the right time, it would definitely be something I'd consider, like depending on what it was. What do you find the hardest about being online? Now, I feel like most people say, and what I would have said like years ago if I answered this question, which I probably did, was, you know, the hate, like, you know, bad comments, etc. Whereas I wouldn't say that's what I find hardest now anymore at all, because I've been doing this for so many years. Just like in any area of life, there's going to be people who don't like you and there's going to be people that like you, you know, and that also transcends to the internet. I suppose the only difference is that in real life a lot of the time, you know, you might hear someone doesn't like you through the grapevine, or it might be a comment, but very rarely will that person ever actually say something to your face. Whereas online, people, you know, feel like they can because they're behind an anonymous account and their real name isn't attached, etc. So they kind of have more balls to just say whatever they want and feel like there's no consequences. Whereas if you said it to someone's face, you know, somebody's gonna respond to you and, you know, stand up for themselves or whatever. I feel like the hardest thing is how hard it is to balance when life gets really hard, like in your personal life, and stressful, and there's a lot of stuff going on but other people are involved, but you can't talk about it because other people are involved, but it's also affecting you a lot. I cannot be fake, I cannot be false, like I'm not somebody who's capable of doing that. So trying to find that like middle ground where you're coming on and you're being honest while also, I suppose, like respecting other people's, you know, own shit, their boundaries or whatever. Because when you are sharing yourself online, it's you, you know, it's yourself, it's your mood, it's your life. So when there's a lot going on in that area, it just feels like such a fine line when there's stuff you want to talk about but you're trying to talk about it without talking about it too much, if that makes sense. Oh, I don't know, it's such a weird one. There's a couple of questions in the same category. So what is your experience in having friends as an adult, and do you find it lonely, hard to make friends as an adult in Roscommon? I'm 28 and live at home. I feel like all my friends have moved away or have their own lives and I feel I'm on my own all the time. There were so many questions about friendships, and I feel like friendships in your adult years and trying to navigate them is so difficult, and it's just so different to when you were a teenager. Like, it's like the way you're saying that, you know, you live at home and you feel like your friends have moved away and they have their own lives. When you're a kid and you're a teenager, your friends, yous are each other's lives, you know what I mean? Like, I remember like being in school, like in my teenage years, and like you're seeing your friends every day, like you're hanging out with your friends after school every day, every other day. Yous are constantly texting, yous are constantly calling each other. It's like codependent to the next level when you're growing up with your friends. But it's so lovely that time of your life, but it's also so hard then when you become an adult and the whole friendship dynamic completely changes, because as an adult you have so many more responsibilities than you did when you were younger, you know, and everyone is living their own lives, and I think that's what makes it so hard. So like for me personally, I had the most amount of friends when I was the worst version of myself, and I feel like that applies for a lot of people as well. The better versions of myself I'm becoming, I've dropped friends, I've had less friends, you know, I've seen my true friends, and I feel like that is what happens as you become an adult, and that can make you feel really lonely. I feel like your 20s are really lonely in a lot of ways. When it comes to my experience with friendships, like, I could talk all day about this, oh my god, but I feel like there was a couple of years where I was just yearning to have like a group of girlfriends, you know, your typical like 4, 5, 6 girls. Like I was yearning for that. And as I got a bit older, I feel like I realised, you know, from friends of mine or else just, you know, talking to people, etc, watching stuff, this idea of having like a big girl gang or whatever it is, like of course it exists for some people, but for most people, a group of friends, they're actually like each other's worst enemies, do you know what I mean? And the amount of bitchiness that goes on in like a group of friends, and the amount of like talking behind one another's back, a lot of the time not everybody gets on. Like, it's very hard for like 6 people to be just as close with each other and have just as much of a connection, you know. So there's always going to be like, you know, people who are closer, people who are more left out. There's so many dynamics going on in that one dynamic, and it often looks so much better from the outside looking in than it is from the inside, you know. So I feel like when I realised that I was wanting something that, in fact, if it manifested, it wouldn't more than likely be the way I envisioned it in my head. You know, I've always very much been a kind of one girl kind of friend, you know, like I do work best one-on-one, and I'm not a surface level friendship kind of gal. I am a deep level friendship kind of gal. And I suppose the flip side of that as well, like, I've realised again as I've gotten older that you really are so blessed in this day, in any day, to have one really good friend. And I believe that through and through. Like, I mean somebody that you can trust, you can talk to, that there's no jealousy there. Like, there's nothing worse than jealousy in a friendship. Even just things like, you know, when you're an adult, like, there might be chunks of time where you don't speak, and that's okay. You just pick up where you left off. But I totally feel the same way. I can feel really lonely in this aspect as well sometimes, but I feel like you have to remind yourself that we are pretty much all in the same boat. So I would have like my bestest friend who I've had since I was friends with in school, but she lives in Manchester now, so I only get to see her like at best a couple times a year, but we'd FaceTime all the time. And then I'd have another really good friend who literally lives down the road from me, and this just shows you, right? She's like 15 minutes down the road from me, but we don't get to see each other much again at all, because when you're an adult, like, our schedules are always clashing. Like, she's this on, or I'm free, and then she's free and I have this on, you know. It's so hard just to find chunks of time where it suits the both of you guys. And like, we've been speaking about doing a little, you know, hotel break getaway for months, and it still hasn't happened, because that's life, you know, and it can be really frustrating and feel really lonely. And then I'd say I'd have like a couple of good friends, and they'd be like friends that I wouldn't speak to maybe as often, but when we do speak or see each other, we talk about everything, you know, and we'd have like a big catch up or whatever. And then on the flip side, like, in the last 2 years, I've tried to make friends with a couple of new girls, and I've just gotten burned in the ass. And like, when that happens, it also makes you kind of take a step back and be a little bit more cautious. And I don't feel like it's bad to be cautious, because the last girl that I tried to be friends with, I wish I had been more cautious going into that friendship. Like, I feel like sometimes when you're like, oh, I really want a friend right now, you know, that's maybe closer to me or whatever, you can jump in too quick, and not everybody has your best intention at heart, and that's a really shit realisation. So I personally would rather have 2 friends than to have 5 friends, but I know them 2 friends actually have my best interest at heart. And yeah, I might feel a bit lonely sometimes, which I do, and like sad that I can't see them, but at least I know that, you know, we have each other at the end of the day, you know. And again, it's just like, we're all in such different phases of life. Like, one of my friends is buying a house at the minute, my other friend is living at home, you know what I mean? Like, we're all on such different paths, and it's so hard. But I just feel like what I've done is try and accept it for what it is, and also knowing that like the right people will come into your life, you know. So I feel like putting yourself out there into hobbies and things that you enjoy is where you'll find like-minded people, and I feel like that can often be the best way to make friends in your 20s. But it's so hard. There's also things like BFF Bumble and stuff, but I don't know how successful any of them things are. Like, I don't know, I can't imagine ever like a dating app for your friends. Like, I love it, but it's also like, oh, I'm a little bit nervous. Right, moving on. So what's your favourite and least favourite thing about Ireland? Is there a country that you would like to move to? Least favourite thing is how bloody expensive this country is. Like, hello. What is going on? Oh my god, this country. Just did a little swifty Google, and it says Ireland was among the most expensive countries in the EU for household expenditure on goods and services last year, with prices 46% above the EU average. This country has become an absolute joke with the cost of things. Like, let's not even talk about it. But it's breaking my achy breaky little heart. And it's really frustrating when you're trying to basically live up to the expectations of our previous generations, but yet we have none of the same resources. My favourite thing about Ireland is just how beautiful it is, and it's home to me. Like, it's my home. It'll forever be my home. But yeah, it's just so beautiful. Oh my god, like Kerry, Clare. Oh, it's just so stunning. Yeah, we're just so blessed to have the country that we have. And is there a country I'd like to move to? I would love to move to the Netherlands, but I'm absolutely terrified because my brother's fiance, her cousin, lives in Amsterdam, and my brother and his fiance are considering moving there potentially sometime in the future. And she was telling me how her cousin was telling her that no matter where you live, you're going to have a problem with either mice or rats because of all the canals. And I just cannot think of anything worse. Oh my god, like when I was younger, we used to live in Navan, and one day my mum went to open the hot press where you keep the towels and all, and she opened the press and there was like a family of mice sitting there looking back at her. And that was just in a housing estate in Ireland years ago. I was really young, but I just can't imagine that being like something you have to deal with every day. I'm not good with mice, I'm not good with rats, and I'm not good with spiders, so I just don't know. But maybe it's not as bad if you move out to the outskirts. I don't know, but it's something that I really want to do at some point. Like, I would really want to move there for a year. Have you any holidays planned coming up? Okay, please tell me I am not the only one here, right? A few months ago, I think it was like May or June, I went on, like, you know, wanting to book a holiday, but I've been terrified, absolutely terrified to get on a plane this summer with everything that's going on in the world. All the wildfires, all the earthquakes and the hurricanes, and just the mad stuff. The stuff going on with airplanes, the mad turbulence in airplanes getting caught in storms. Like, my heart, I just couldn't. And I've seen so many people online that I follow, and I don't even follow like a lot of people, getting, you know, stranded abroad, like can't get flights back, like flights being delayed, and then they're having to try and find accommodation for like the next 2 weeks while there's like wildfires going on. People are losing their homes, like people are losing everything, and then there's these tourists just like stuck there, like basically like in the goddamn way, and then they also can't get home. And I've just been so scared. What's been going on in the world has been instilling a lot of fear in me, I'm not gonna lie, and I've not heard anybody talk about it. Like, everybody is just jetting off on their goddamn holidays. I'm like, what are you doing? Like the wildfires. I don't know, not been dealing well with the events of the world at the minute. But yeah, so I've no holidays planned. Went to the Netherlands at the start of this year in January, and then went to the UK for a night in March. And I haven't been anywhere since, but I really do want to book somewhere for like September, October time. I would love to go to Italy in like September, because I saw a video the other day and it was like the water is the warmest it will be because it's been heating up all summer, but it's not like too hot. It's just like a nice kind of temperature. A lot of the tourists have gone. I don't know, I feel like that's definitely my kind of vibe. Why am I just talking so much today? Like, I cannot shut up. Like, every question you ask me, I'm like, I am going to tell you my life story right now. The worst trouble you got into as a kid. Oh my god, a kid. Well, I feel like as a kid, I feel like I was a good kid. I was very afraid to do wrong from what my parents said. My mum was stern. Like, my mum from the north of Dublin, a stern woman. Like, you are not going to cross her, and she is going to tell you how it is. So I was afraid of like putting my foot out of line. But when I entered my teenage years, like we all do, we get a little bit rebellious, and I'd say the worst trouble I got into, I think I was 15 or 14. I think 15, and I was going to a teenage disco, and I was getting ready in my friend's house, and I can't remember, but I'm not sure if I told her I was wearing something else. I must have. Like, I'm sure she used to ask me what I'd be wearing to these teenage discos. But yeah, so I showed her something I was wearing. Then I went to my friend's house, wore something else, knee-high socks, a little mini skirt, tube top, and a sheer little shirt. My goodness. And I went to the teenage disco, and then I came back and I stayed in my friend's house. And then we obviously took photos, you know, that's what you did back in the day, like you'd take a load of photos before you'd go to a disco and then you'd upload them all the next day. So I changed my profile picture the next day to my outfit, you know, and I had like 6-inch heels, booties on, like, oh my god, the fucking style was awful. A couple of days later, I was up in my room, whatever I was doing. Jessica, get down here now! I was like, oh my god, what have I done? Fucking trembling down the stairs, like, oh no. I go in and my mum, oh my god, she was so mad with me. So my auntie had rang my mother and said, have you seen what your daughter's posted on Facebook? Say, you little rat, you ratted me out. I got an absolute mouthful and I was grounded. I think it was like a week or something, and I think my phone was taken off me. And to be fair, when I think back, like, I don't blame her, like, I really don't blame her. But to be fair, these days, 15-year-olds are going around and they're wearing way worse than what I was wearing, and they also look fucking 23. When I was 14, 15, I looked 14, 15, you know? Like the blue sparkly eyeshadow, like the orange tan, you looked your age. But these days, they don't look their age. Like, they're able to do their hair, they're able to do their makeup. Let me know down in the comments below what the most trouble you got into as a kid was. I feel like it's such like a interesting topic of conversation. How long before you saw the benefits of sea moss gel? So if you didn't see my last video, I was talking about how I cleared up my acne. But one of the things that really helped, and I swear by it, is sea moss gel. And I would say after 2 weeks, I noticed like a difference, but I noticed a huge difference after 30 days. But yeah, after 2 weeks, my redness was easing. I wasn't getting new spots. My skin was going in the right direction, but I could see a huge transformation after 30 days. But I found it working so quickly, and they say I think it can take 4 weeks to 6 weeks before you can see the benefits. But I literally saw them straight away. Amazing. It's literally a miracle product. I cannot recommend it enough. So some of you guys sent in like dilemmas, but I really wanted to answer this one because I have found myself in the same position as you. So my best friend of 17 years is constantly cancelling plans with me. I haven't seen her in over a month when we live less than an hour from each other, but she spends literally every single day with her boyfriend of about 6 months and practically lives with him already. Should I tell her that I now feel like an afterthought in her life, or just accept that this is the new version of our friendship? Note, when she was getting divorced last year, I supported her anytime she needed me and promised we'd spend more time together post-divorce, so I feel used. I've been in a very similar situation, just with like a few different variables. Like, you know, it wasn't a 17-year friendship, but it was a long friendship that I had since school and after school, you know. So I really get this. So in my situation, what happened was I'd been friends with her for so many years and we'd gone through so much together, like we were best friends, and she got a boyfriend, and very similar thing happened with what you're saying. Like at the start she like went very, you know, MIA, cancelling plans, yada yada yada. And then she kind of came out of the woodwork a bit, you know, and we were seeing each other a bit more, etc. And that's the one thing I'd say is a lot of people do go a bit MIA when they get into a new relationship, and I feel like that's okay, like to give people a little bit of grace period, because it can be very unintentional and they can just kind of get caught up in all the feelings and the love and this and that. So then I started seeing more of her, but what I started to notice as time went on is she'd only want to hang out with me or ring me or talk to me when things weren't so great between them. So like if there was something going on with them, or you know, they'd had a fight, etc, etc, and I'd see so much of her then, but then again she'd disappear, and this went on for quite a long time. And then it got really bad again, where like you're saying, she started cancelling plans again. Like I cannot tell you how many times we had organised to meet up, her to come over to me, so many plans, and like literally the day of, she just wouldn't reply to me. Like she wouldn't even tell me she was cancelling. she'd like ghost me and then reply the next day and like, oh sorry, this and that, but it just kept happening. To one time, I think it was the last time, I was actually waiting for her. Like, she was meant to be coming over to where I was living at the time, and yeah, I just didn't hear from her. Like, I texted her and she just wasn't replying, and it was just always excuses then when she came back. I had to say it to her. Like, I told her how I was feeling, and I feel like that's what you kind of have to do. Give them a chance to like be better and do better. Like, maybe they don't realise, but after expressing this to her a number of times and it kept happening, I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, it was actually causing me so much upset and hurt, because I was always there when she needed me, but she wasn't there when I needed her. And like, I went through some like big life changes at the time, and she didn't even ask me how I was getting on or how this went or how that went, and it just felt like such a kick in the teeth from, you know, just all the years of friendship and how the previous couple of years had gone, and it just felt like, you know, all she then was interested in was him. And so what I would say is, like, of course, like, when someone's in a relationship, you know, the dynamic of your friendship might change a bit, but it shouldn't be a case where, you know, they're cancelling all the time, they're not talking to you, they're only coming to you when they need something, you know, because that's not a friendship, you know, that's like a one-sided relationship. So if I were you, I would tell her how you feel, or you could give it another couple of months, because she is still like only 6 months in it and she's still in the honeymoon phase. Maybe give her a little bit more of a period, and then I'd say something like, my friend had been with this guy like a couple of years at the point, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't a new thing when it kept reoccurring, like, so that's when I knew that it wasn't going to change, and she kind of didn't really have any interest in working on the friendship per se, you know. So it's so hard though. Like, I just it also depends on so many things, like, that only you can weigh up, you know. And this particular girl, like, we had a falling out a few years ago, so for me this was the nail in the coffin, you know. So it depends on, is this the first thing that's ever happened between you guys? Is there a list of things that have happened? I'm really sorry you're going through this, because I can really empathise with you in a lot of ways. How do you gather the courage to put yourself online? I feel like how I gather the courage is, it comes down to the reasons why I'm posting, or why you're posting. My reasons for posting is being able to help people and connect with people, and they're my two whys. And I feel like you always need a why, and if you have a why, it makes it easier to be able to throw yourself into something that might feel more daunting. That was the same thing that applied when I started this, you know what I mean? Like, when I posted my first video, I was so afraid, but I had wanted to do it for so many years for them two reasons. I also feel like now, in this day and age, 2023, like, every other person is posted online. Even if you don't have a big following, like, you have people posting every part of their day just to their friends and family on their Instagrams, you know what I mean? Like, most people put themselves out there these days, so I feel like if it is something you're wanting to do, it probably is easier now than it was like back in 2017 or 2016, you know, when it was so much more taboo. Like, when I started doing this and I just left school, like, people were like, what are you doing? Embarrassing. But yeah, I feel like you just have to keep reminding yourself of your whys, and just know as well, not everyone's gonna like you, but you don't like everyone, and that's okay, you know what I mean? Who wants to be liked by everybody? Like, if everybody likes you, you're doing something wrong, so wrong. And if you are yourself, people are going to have a problem with it in so many different regards. But a lot of the time, people don't directly have a problem with you. They're projecting, like, you know, it's something in you can bring up something in someone else. Just say you're really confident and somebody's not confident, and they see how confident you are. Unknown to themselves, they could start like talking shit about you. They don't even know where it's coming from, but subconsciously what's going on is that it's like jealousy. Why can't I be confident like that? And then they feel like they need to bring the other person down to bring them on their level or something, you know. But just as an example, yeah, I feel like also knowing that not everyone's gonna like you helps you also gain the courage, because you know, so you're not posting being like, everyone's gonna like this. No, of course people aren't, and that's okay. Oh my god, my camera battery's flashing. I've been filming for so long. I've talked in depth on most answers, and I'm so annoyed with myself because there's so many more questions I want to answer, but I've been here for a minute. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to answer the rest of them in another video, and I'll also probably pop up another question box if you have any other questions you want to ask. But I love you all so very much. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I cannot wait to see you all in my next one.